Wow! I did not see that coming. That is a bigger twist than that one in The Sixth Sense, which admittedly I guessed at the beginning of the film. Still, this is amazing. Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to our place in the world. And I don't mean each country's political standing, I literally mean our place in the world, our coordinates, our latitude and longitude. On October 25th, Britain's clocks go back by 1 hour, precisely 1 week before the US clocks do likewise. Growing up in Britain, this was always a strange time for me because on the Monday, I'd turn up to school before the teachers. But it was also a strange time because it started to get dark really early. Thanks to a combination of Britain's latitude and the tilt of the Earth, the sun would set as early as 3:40 in my hometown of Grimsby. For context, Chicago enjoys about 40 minutes extra daylight on or around winter solstice. Anyway, all of this talk about latitude got me thinking, the US is a big place, right? So how much of it is horizontally parallel with, that is on the same latitude as, mainland Britain? Instinctively, you might think, oh, London and New York are fairly parallel, right? But are they? I mean, if you could fly due west from Britain in a giant plane whose wingspan measured the length of Britain itself, which US cities would you actually intersect? How many Americans going about their daily lives would see this admittedly terrifying vehicle over their heads and post it to Instagram? To find out, we'd first need to know the geographic coordinates of mainland Britain's most northern and southern points. And for trivia buffs, that's Dunnet Head and Lizard Point respectively. And yes, those are real names, shut up. You can easily find the coordinates of any place on the planet using Google Maps. Right-click on the intended location, select What's Here, and the coordinates will appear at the bottom of your screen. Amazing! The northernmost tip of Dunnet Head is located at latitude 58.671586 and longitude -3.375782. Scary big numbers! Except coordinates are surprisingly easy to understand. For now, let's assume that the longitude is set at 0. The first number, the latitude coordinate, represents the degree to which a place is located between the equator and the Earth's poles. If the latitude is at 0 degrees, you're on the equator. If it's at 90 degrees, you're happy, you're overjoyed, you're on top of the world. If it's at -90 degrees, the temperature might just follow suit. You're on the South Pole, but at least there are penguins. The second number, the longitude coordinate, represents the degree to which a place is located from east to west. This is where the prime meridian comes in, and I have a very special kinship with the prime meridian for the very reason that I was born on it. Or should I say almost. I literally entered the world 4 blocks from the Eastern Hemisphere. Anyway, if the longitude is at 0 degrees, you're on the prime meridian. If you travel 180 degrees east or west, you'll reach what is known as the anti-meridian, basically the prime meridian, but on the other side of the Earth. Together, the two lines form a complete circle, a sort of vertical equator. So your longitude coordinate will always be between 0 and 180 degrees if you're in the Eastern Hemisphere, or 0 and -180 degrees if you're in the Western Hemisphere. So to pull all of that together, Dunnet Head is almost 59 degrees above the equator and just over 3 degrees west of the prime meridian. If you're still confused, don't worry, because for the remainder of the video we'll only be talking about latitude. After all, you'd be a fool to think that a vertical line could run through both Britain and America. They're clearly separated by a pond and 3 billion memos. No, the point of this video is to take every latitude coordinate between Dunnet Head and Lizard Point and drag them due west over the United States. For confirmation, Lizard Point is about 9 degrees closer to the equator than Dunnet Head. So at this point, I could have created a graphic showing all US places that are on the same latitude as Britain. But why do that when someone has already created an interactive map? Thanks to Chris Pollis at ByteMuse.com, anyone can see if their city shares its latitude with other cities around the world. The man is a certified hero. Here's what I found out. Okay, as you can see, we have Great Britain over here in the east, the United States over here in the west, and these lines of latitude to tell us where we're going. So what I'm going to do is, I am going to drag my home country to the west. So let's see what happens. We go across the ocean and we arrive very abruptly at Canada. So we do see a lot of Canada. So North America represent here, but solely Canada so far. And still, even when you get to that point in Minnesota that's partially in Canada, you're still not touching the United States of America. So let's see what happens when you get to in and around Washington. Well, not a lot, because the line separating Canada and the US remains kind of flat. And so really, you don't connect with the United States until you reach Alaska. And admittedly, you do, specifically Scotland, intersect with Juneau, the capital of Alaska. But then it goes off into the sea once more, and unless I'm mistaken, there are no Alaskans living there. You keep flying or swimming west, and well, look at that! You reach Alaska again, until you actually keep going, and there's a load of Alaskan islands off the side of this page that it also crosses. All that to say, Britain and Alaska are having a bit of a bromance with Canada. So not only is New York about 11 degrees closer to the equator than London, but precisely none of the lower 48 is parallel with Britain. And instinctively, that feels absolutely bizarre and makes me want to throw away my mental world map and get a new one. Alaska is the only state that's parallel, and even then, the vast majority of Alaskans don't get to revel in this earth-shattering fact. And that's because 9 of the state's 10 most populous cities lie outside of the area in question. Considering Alaska is home to just 0.2% of all Americans, latitudinal unity with Britain is reserved for a very select few. A generous estimate suggests somewhere between 60 and 100,000 people live in this rectangle. Therefore, at most, only 0.018% of Americans live on the same latitude as Britain. And surprisingly, owing to the tilt of the Earth, darkness doesn't set in for those same people until around 5:40 during winter solstice. You'd have to head north to Anchorage to find sunsets with similar hours to Britain, or further north still if you prefer your winters to have no sunlight whatsoever. And so that's the story of how almost no Americans live on the same latitude as Britain. Except we're not done, apparently. I'm getting... that's... wow! I did not see that coming. That is a bigger twist than that one in The Sixth Sense, which admittedly I guessed at the beginning of the film. Still, this is amazing. So remember earlier when I said this? After all, you'd be a fool to think that a vertical line could run through both Britain and America. They're clearly separated by a pond and 3 billion memos. Yep, I lied, because remember even earlier, when I said this. If you travel 180 degrees east or west, you'll reach what is known as the anti-meridian, basically the prime meridian, but on the other side of the Earth. The other side of the Earth. The other side of the Earth. If you pushed Britain due north up the prime meridian over the top of the Earth and to the other side, you would eventually arrive at the United States of America. And that's not even the freakiest part, because the one and only part of America you'd specifically arrive at are those same Alaskan islands in the Bering Sea. So well done, Alaska. In a very roundabout way, you hold the distinction of being vertically and horizontally parallel with Britain, two things that no other state can claim. Once again, this video was made possible by my patrons, who are represented by every state. If you would like to become a patron of Lost in the Pond and support the work I do here, you can do so at patreon.com/lostinthepond. Until I see you on the other side, goodbye.